Coming up here on today's show, the top 10 linebackers I want the Las Vegas Raiders to select in the 2024 NFL Draft. My name is Mitchell Renz. I'm the host of the Raiders Report here at Chat Sports, and today's show is designed on the idea of I am very confident that Antonio Pierce, that Patrick Graham are targeting linebackers in this year's draft, and I don't know exactly when they're going to take one, but when you look at a lot of the combine meetings, you look at a lot of the pre-draft visits, there's going to be some linebackers that are tied into that group that I could say, hey, these are the players that the Raiders go out and get. Now, the rankings that you're about to see, they're not like the top 10 linebackers in the 2024 NFL Draft. No, that's not it at all. They are based on the overall skill set, like how good is that player? Also based on what would their fit be with somebody like Patrick Graham with their defense from top to bottom. Also, you got to look at projected draft costs. So if there's a certain player that I like a lot more that I think that I can get in round 4 compared to another player that I anticipate ends up going in round 3, that round 4 guy could be ranked higher than round 3. Now, if you want to find draft videos around the Las Vegas Raiders, I promise you we got you covered here. And I'm going to start doing a lot more videos like this. I wanted to start with the linebacker position because Antonio Pierce once played linebacker. So if you're looking for more draft videos around the Raiders, hit that subscribe button. And if you're looking and you enjoyed this video, I'm going to be making more top 10 targets at each position leading up to the NFL Draft, which, crazy enough, is about 3 weeks away. Let's go to number 10 here on my list for the Raiders linebacker draft targets. Nathaniel Watson, linebacker from Mississippi State. He's going to come in here at number 10. The reason why that I like him and the reason why that I think it's a good fit is because of the mentality that he brings and the mentality that shows up on film. He is that old school heavy-hitting linebacker with big-time size, and he's going to try to put your dick in the dirt. Like, that's what Watson does. I will say that he's going to struggle to cover in the NFL on a consistent basis, though I did like that you could see that he had some pass rushing ability as an outside linebacker potentially at the next level. Also, Rob Leonard coached him at the Senior Bowl, and some of you are like, well, Rob Leonard, that's the Raiders' defensive line coach. True, but he was the coach at the Senior Bowl for the linebackers, and this is one of the teams that Watson, he was a part of the American team at the Senior Bowl. When you look at some of his numbers, they are pretty impressive, right? Like 12 games played, found himself around the football very often, which I know that sometimes linebackers, tackles, it's kind of an overblown stat. But, guys, I mean, 12 games, 10 sacks, 13 tackles for loss, 137 tackles. That's having a nose for the football and knowing where you're going to be. If you're like, well, Mitch, where could we potentially get him? I see Watson probably going in that round 5, round 6 range, and linebackers typically slide down the board because linebackers are just like running backs. People know that the value for them isn't as high. So for the Raiders, this is somewhere around pick 148, pick 208. I could say that they could get somebody like Watson. Let's go to number 9 here. It's going to be Tommy Eichenberg, linebacker for Ohio State. And Eichenberg, not that I kind of wish. There used to be a term that I used to use all the time, and it's a term that used to get used with Gruden. There was a Gruden grinder. Well, guess what? Tommy Eichenberg is a Gruden grinder. Dude loves football. I think he's one of the smarter linebackers in this year's draft class. The problem is he just doesn't have a lot of the athletic ability that you're going to see me mention with some of these other dudes. I do think he'd be a really solid locker room guy on top of that, and somebody that, like, AP's going to love. Somebody that if you could say, hey, I want you to sit behind Robert Spillane, learn behind him, because, like, Robert Spillane is a good athlete, better than what Eichenberg was coming out of the draft. But, like, Eichenberg, if he really dives in and has that, like, mentality of first guy there, last guy to leave, like, he could hang around. I also think worst case scenario, he's a really good special teams player for the Raiders. And when you look at some of these teams that are able to take that next step, like, you also got to be able to find solid linebackers, solid special teams players. And over the past 2 seasons with the Buckeyes, he showed that he is one of the more dominant linebackers in the Big Ten. For that reason, if the Silver and Black were to target him in round 5, round 6, I think that's the area that you do it. I'm not sitting up here saying I'm taking Eichenberg in round 4. I'm not taking him in round 3. This is a later round guy that I would be okay with the Raiders taking because of all the other intangibles that he could bring to that locker room. So here's my pinned comment on today's show. And this is the number one question that I want you to answer, because when you talk about linebackers, we talk a lot of the positions here. Like, point blank, you're not going to be able to get anyone. But what I do want the Raiders to do is target a certain round, because in this year's draft, there is a certain round that I think there's a lot of really talented linebackers that I would want the Silver and Black to go out and look at. So you're about to get hit with the YouTube ad break. Scroll on down. Which round should the Raiders target a linebacker in this year's draft? This year, I want the Las Vegas Raiders to target a linebacker in round 3. Would like them to get a linebacker in round 4. Now, there is one guy, and it's the dude that's ranked number 1 on my list, that I'd be a little bit willing to bend those rules for. Let's go to number 8 here. It's Tyrone Hopper, and solid linebacker coming out of MIZZ. Another dude that is just a hard-hitting, old-school type of linebacker. And I'm having a lot of confidence in Patrick Graham. I have a lot of confidence in Raiders linebacker coach Mike Caldwell and this group to get the most out of a player. I will say he's more of just an off-ball linebacker. He's got the length that you like. He's got some solid speed and the agility that Patrick Graham is looking for his defense. This dude needs a lot of work, okay? And if I didn't trust this coaching staff the way that I do, this probably be a player that I'd say, you know what, let somebody else have him. Too much of a project player. I have confidence in our defensive staff, and at the end of the day, until they give me a reason not to have confidence in them, I'm going to sit up here and say that could be a solid dude. He really struggles in coverage, but also has traits that could be a solid special teams player. Again, like if you're a bad linebacker, but you're an athlete, you're probably going to be a good special teams player. And for Hopper, 55 tackles last season, 3 sacks in the SEC. If you were a coach that has a lot of confidence in himself and you're like, you know what, I got the right coaching staff, I got some past players, I got some good teachers, then this is a project that you would look at as a project player. Somebody that, could I turn him in to somebody like a Willie Gay? Could I turn him in potentially to a 3-down linebacker? Because if you can get it to click up here for him, he has the athletic ability. Like, I think Amari Burney is a really, really good athlete. Tyrone might be a better one. In terms of where I'm going to target him, I'm going to be looking in round 5, round 6. The next player coming up here on the show is a name that I want all of y'all to circle. Linebacker out of UTEP, Tyrice Knight. And Trice Knight, excuse me. And when I think about what this guy can bring to the table, it's another small school dude, but has connections with Rob Leonard based on their time from the Senior Bowl. And this was one of the dudes that I got some notes from some of my people that were at the Senior Bowl, and they were like, this is definitely somebody that all Raider fans should circle on draft day. He's a tackling monster, and he doesn't have all these athletic traits that you look for, but sometimes I just want to be able to find a guy that knows exactly where to be. And, the comparison I'm going to make here is Robert Spillane, where I don't think anybody thinks that Robert Spillane is the best athlete that the Raiders have at linebacker. Hell, Divine Diablo is a much better athlete than Spillane. But Spillane has it up here, and he was always in the right place at the right time. And when you watch Knight on tape, I get it, it's at a lower level at UTEP, and even though he's got average speed, and then he's a below-average man in cover talent, his ability to just know where the football is, I think it's just one of those things that you can't really teach. 15.5 tackles for loss is unbelievable. 4.5 sacks, 7 PBUs, 84 tackles this past season. Like, it's somebody that, yes, you're going to be probably taking a little bit of a chance on overall from top to bottom, but if it's somebody that you are confident in and in their ability, I also want to say that 84 tackles might be solo tackles. I want to say total tackles. He was at 140 in total, which, yep, right, yeah, that's true. But at 6'2", 235 pounds, you're looking at somebody, again, that you can target in round 5, round 6. So out of all the linebackers that I've talked about, some of you are like, well, Mitch, you've only given me round 5, round 6 targets. If I'm going to target somebody in round 5 and beyond, right now, his name, it's Knight. Now, I got a few more names, obviously, coming up here on today's show before I get into my top 6, but I do got to show some love to our sponsor, Game Time. $20 off with code CHATSPORTS. I'm going to say it again. $20 off with code CHATSPORTS. That's CHATSPORTS. If you're like, where can I find that code? It's literally all over our company because it is our company name. So anyway, the reason why I love Game Time, buying tickets to your favorite events shouldn't be stressful. Snag the tickets without the stress with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all music, comedy, theater, of course, sports near you. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their best price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. Now, some of the reasons why that I love Game Time is the all-in price is one of my favorite things that Game Time does, because I've recently been telling all y'all, I've been trying to do more date nights with Alex, been trying to do more of like, I don't want to just go out and go to the bar, grab a beer. I don't want to just go grab some food, but like, can we go to a theater? Can we go watch the Mavericks down here? Can we go watch the Dallas Stars? If we're ever in Vegas, I'd love to be able to go see the Vegas Knights. But the reason why that I love that is because a lot of other ticketing apps, like you go to buy a ticket and, you know, Chugs always makes the analogy. Imagine you go buy a gallon of milk and you're like, all right, this gallon of milk's $3. And then you go to check out and all of a sudden it's $6. You're like, how did that happen? And that's kind of why I love Game Time, because they show you the all-in prices. So if it's like those tickets are $70, when I go to check out, those prices, $70. Like, it is the way that all ticketing apps should be. And I also love that they have event cancellation protection, which, because sometimes you wait till the last minute to get those tickets to then lock in that lowest price guaranteed, even if something were to randomly pop up, you could cancel your tickets, and then you're going to be able to get your money back. So I want y'all to go try out Game Time. Awesome events. Link's going to be available to y'all down in the comments, down in the description of today's show. One more time, in case you were sleeping, I want you to redeem code CHATSPORTS, CHATSPORTS, for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Let's go to number 6 here on my linebacker draft targets, Cedric Gray from UNC. And out of all these prospects, I would say the prospect that is probably one of the most challenging for me to figure out is Gray from North Carolina, just because there are some people that I talk to and that I trust are like, this kid's one of the best linebackers in this draft. But when I watch my tape, I'm not as in love with Cedric Gray, man. Like, he is a weak side linebacker, and that's what he's just going to be. If you want him to play in a system, like a specific system, and you tell him exactly what to do, I think he might struggle. If you let him just kind of free ball it here a little bit and just let him shoot gaps, go after tackles for loss, and just like let him be him, then he could be a little bit more successful. Like, I do think Patrick Graham's system could be good fit for Cedric Gray, but like the physicality of what the NFL is going to bring, Gray's going to struggle with. Like, he's got to add muscle. He's got to add a little bit more weight. He plays way too soft for the type of linebacker that I want. He does have really good athleticism. Like, he does have traits that make me confident that, you know what, you could drop him back into man, and he's going to be able to play it and hang with some of these good athletes. But, like, from a physicality standpoint, I just believe that Antonio Pierce, this defense, they want more players that bring that physical, nasty, like, you're going to feel us at the end of the game type of mentality. And when I watch Cedric Gray, he doesn't have that, right? Like, he's a lot more patient at linebacker, and because of that, he shoots the gap well to get tackles for loss. But sometimes when he waits too long, if it's him one-on-one against the running back or him one-on-one, there's a reason why he doesn't have so many solo tackles. He's got a lot of combined tackles. But back in 2023, 121 tackles, 5 sacks with the UNC Tar Heels. I would target him in round 4, round 5. From here on out, this is where it gets juicy. Let's go to number 5 here. I'm going to go with Jeremiah Trotter Jr. out of Clemson. And one of the things that I know for a fact the Raiders are looking for are, can I find players that maybe have some bloodlines in the NFL? And for Jeremiah Trotter Jr., his dad, Jeremiah Trotter, obviously, who spent a lot of years in the NFL playing linebacker. Like, if you're going to be a team like AP, and if you're going to bring in a lot of past player coaches to now coach your team, wouldn't you want somebody that's been bred to literally be a linebacker in the NFL? And when you hear a lot of coaches, a lot of people talk about Trotter, it's just like his football IQ is just ahead of the curve, right? Like, it's almost like he's playing 4 or 5 years in front of everybody else, and he just sees things a lot easier than some other people do. I also know that he's an underrated blitzer, and sometimes when you talk about linebackers, people just expect them to be able to hang back. He's a good enough athlete where he can put his foot in the dirt and get north and south, pin his ears back a little bit, get after the QB. I will admit that if you're going to use him in zone coverage, not the right tools there, and he really, really struggles on tape against play action, which does scare me. Like, if you're going to be in a potential passing situation, I don't know if Trotter's the guy that I want out there on, like, 3rd and 3, where, yeah, they might run it, but if they go to play action, I have a pretty strong feeling that this guy's going to end up getting beat. But because of his ties with his dad, like, that could be one of those determining factors of, all right, He knows what it is to be an NFL linebacker. He's been around it his entire life. He's already going to come in, have that mindset. The other thing, though, with Trotter and why I have him at 5, there are some people that think he might legitimately be the best linebacker in this year's class. He is a little bit undersized for me personally, but where you're going to have to take him, I don't see him falling outside of round 3. So if you're the Raiders and you got to take him at pick 77, like, there's some good value there. There's just other players that I personally would rather take at linebacker, other players that I'm hoping the Silver and Black end up landing at 77. Let's go to number 4 here. It's Edrin Cooper, and this dude's upside is massive. He might have the most upside outside of the players ranked at 2 and 1 for me in this year's class, and I'm almost curious if a team looks at Cooper and goes, you know what? I'm going to make you an edge rusher and not make you a linebacker because this guy is physical. He's got elite top-end speed. I mean, you're talking 4.5 40 for a linebacker, which is insane, and a burning desire to get to the football. Like, when you watch him on tape, there's at times, and I know what I'm about to say is going to scare people, but I just want you to think of the comparison. Remember Jonathan Abram, when he saw somebody with a football, it was like, you'd almost like put a blinder over him, and he was just 0 to 100 real quick, and he would try to take somebody's head off. That's kind of what Cooper does, and at times he overcommits and does get beat, and because he's looking for that hit stick, like, think about when you were a kid playing Madden. You wanted to hit stick your buddy, but it also led to a lot of missed tackles, over pursuing, which is like my biggest knock on Cooper. Low-key, though, one of my favorite things about him, when he was asked to be a quarterback spy at Texas A&M, he might have been one of the best QB spies I've seen on tape at the college level. So if you're like, you know what, we're going up against a lot of mobile quarterbacks, or if you want to have somebody that can play that QB spy, like, you put him on Patrick Mahomes and you just say, hey, man, don't let Patrick beat us with his legs. I know it's a lot easier said than done, but there's not many linebackers in their rookie year that I'd have confidence in. Edrin Cooper would be one of those dudes. In terms of where you're going to have to go out and draft him, probably round 2, round 3. Like, there's a chance that he's the first linebacker taken because of some injury issues with some other dudes in this year's class, but also because I think that you might be able to turn him into an edge rusher. 8 sacks this past season, hell of an athlete. I can't wait to see what Edgerrin Cooper does in the NFL. Before I get into my top 3 linebackers that I want the Raiders to potentially target, for those that do not know, I want you to start interacting with Jeremy and I more on social media. You can DM us. Our DMs are open on Twitter, IG. Chugs is at Jeremy Chugs. On IG, he's at Jeremy_Chugs. I'm at Mitchell Renz 365, literally everywhere. Also, I'm going to start doing some more IG lives on Wednesday, 6 p.m. Eastern time, so make sure that you're tuned in. Number 3 on our linebackers to draft targets video, Junior Colson from Michigan. The reason why I have him over Cooper and over Trotter is based on conversations that I've had with people. It sounds like he's ranked a little bit higher on the Raiders board than those other 2 guys. But, like, if you're looking for that modern-day blend of speed and explosiveness at linebacker, somebody that legitimately gives you, like, legit 3-down linebacker upside, like, Colson's one of those dudes. Like, I feel like people a lot of times when I say bell cow running back, right? Like a bell cow running back, a guy that can handle 3 downs, people know what I'm talking about when I say that because it's the running back position. I also think for a lot of NFL teams, they want to be able to find that linebacker that's like, if it's first and whatever, I know that he can stop the run. I know that he can go sideline to sideline. I know that he can drop back into coverage, and he can do all those things. Like, that's what Colson can do here. And he does lack recognition at times in blocking schemes where if it's a certain zone read, he might read it wrong, and he does struggle against the run from time to time. But because of his athletic ability, because of his mental sharpness, because of his football IQ, because of all the awesome coaches that the Raiders have on the defensive side of the football, I think Colson would be a hell of a pickup here for the Silver and Black. And when you look at the 15 games that he played last season on the Michigan Wolverines, he also has some experience there of winning a title, playing in big games, which I do think weighs to me. Like, do I want somebody that's played really solid in big games? Of course I do. And the way that this Michigan defense played and rallied to the football against Washington, I mean, there's a reason why this guy is going to be somebody that goes in round 2 and in potentially round 3 of the 2024 NFL Draft. He's 6'3", he's 250, he can move, he can be a 3-down linebacker. Sky's the limits here for Junior. So now my question is this. If the Raiders were to draft only one linebacker, Who should it be? If I started the show earlier asking you what round should they draft one, now if you got the pick, Telesco and AP said, hey, sit down right here, right next to me. You get to pick one linebacker. Who should it be? For me, there's two names to come in mind. There's the linebacker that I'm about to talk about, which I think is the best value because I think you might be able to get him in round 4. And then the guy that's number 1 is the guy that I'm all in at the linebacker position for the Las Vegas Raiders. Let's go to number 2 here on my list. It is Trevin Wallace from Kentucky. If you believe in Antonio Pierce, if you believe in Patrick Graham, if you believe in Rob Leonard, if you believe in Mike Caldwell, then I want you to believe in Trevin Wallace because he might be the best athlete in this year's class, not ranked number 1 on my video. I mean, he is an explosive athlete who can get after the quarterback, and I think worst case scenario, he's a really good special teams guy. I'll admit, you don't take a linebacker to play special teams in round 3, round 4. It's not something you do. You're taking a linebacker there in hopes that he can materialize and be a really solid player. Like, I know Divine Diablo did not materialize, but his play recognition and football instincts, they're lacking. And that's when, that's what's lacking. If you can coach him up and be a good teacher and have him learn some of the basics of what it means to play linebacker in the National Football League and allow him to be the athlete that he knows that he can be. And if it clicks, look out. Because if it clicks, the NFL is going to be like, how did we miss on Trevin Wallace? Rob Leonard coached him at the Senior Bowl and spoke nothing but very highly regarded words about this young man. He was very good at the Senior Bowl. He crushed the NFL Combine. It is not a matter of is he a good enough athlete. It is a matter of can he put it together upstairs. And I am confident enough in our Raiders coaching staff on the defensive side of the football that I'd say, you know what? I'm willing to roll the dice here. And where am I willing to roll it? I would be willing to take him at pick 77. It would be, I wouldn't love it. I'm going to be honest with you. I wouldn't like sit up here and go, oh, it's an A+ grade. You get him in round 4 at pick 112, I'm giving an A+ grade. If you end up getting him because you're hopeful that you get him in round 3 at pick 77, I'd probably give it a solid B grade. But coming in here at number 1, and people that have watched the show probably knew where I was going because Payton Wilson from NC State to me is the best linebacker in this year's class. He would be the perfect fit in a Patrick Graham system. And if you're looking for an overall athlete, I mean, I don't know what else to say about Payton Wilson. This dude is long, he's lanky, he can run. He ran a 4.43 40-yard dash at the combine, and the versatility that he's going to be able to offer you, like, he can play man, he can play zone. Like, yeah, there's still going to be a little bit of a learning curve there, but, like, finds the football, seems to make plays when it matters the most. He's a team captain. Like, some of y'all are probably like, get his you-know-what out of your mouth, Mitch, and you're not wrong. Like, I think Payton Wilson would be an unbelievable fit with the Las Vegas Raiders, and this is the only linebacker in this year's draft that I would be okay with this team taking at 44 because that's how good I think he is. And if it wasn't for his injury history, he'd be a top 50 pick, and it wouldn't even be a doubt. Yes, he has 2 ACL tears, though all of his medical from the combine did come back and say that he checked out, he's going to be 100% okay. Like, I know people are going to be scared of the past injuries. You should always be scared. It's the NFL. Injuries are going to happen. But, like, this is a dude that is legit top 50 talent. This is a dude that legit, probably if he didn't have those ACLs, like I said, he might be a linebacker that teams would potentially consider drafting in the first round because of all the different things that he's going to be able to offer you, all the different things that he's able to do. He's not afraid. He's a hell of a leader. And no matter what team ends up getting Payton Wilson, they're going to be a very happy football team because I'm telling you right now, this dude is legit. Now, I know it says round 2, round 3 target. There are some teams that might take him off their draft board because of the past injury histories, and I've done a lot of mock drafts where he's fallen to round 3. I don't think he's going to fall to round 3, and I don't like the idea of trading up for a linebacker. So if it was like, you know for a fact that he's not there, or that you're like, this is a guy that I absolutely positively want to have, you take him at 44. I know some people might not like that idea. I'm okay with it. I'd give it a B grade. If you get him at pick 77, I might just give the draft an A, man. All right, real quick here, we're going to roll through our top 10 players that I want the Raiders to draft at the linebacker position. Obviously, if you guys made it this far in the video, please don't be afraid to take a screenshot. I showed you earlier where you can find Jeremy Chuggs and I on social media, so don't be afraid to tag us on there so that way we can share it and continue to grow the Raiders report, because that's the only way this thing's going to continue to grow, is if you guys help us out. We're going to keep making the videos. I just need y'all to keep on helping us grow this bad boy. Shout out to all the real ones out there that made it this far in this show. I do think that the Raiders got a lot of fun things in store for us, especially during the draft. I'm excited to see which linebacker they end up taking, and I'm excited to see what ends up happening in that linebacker room, because as far as I'm concerned, it's Robert Spillane is the only one that's locked into a role. I'm not going to say Divine Diablo's locked in. Luke Masterson's not locked in. I know the Raiders drafted Amari Burney last year, but that's not one of their guys. Bottom line, Robert Spillane is the only safe linebacker, and I see this team adding at least one in the draft.